Hello again, Year 8. Today we are going to be looking at the key skill of adding and subtracting fractions with different denominators. So this is our second lesson on fractions, and today we are focusing on adding and subtracting fractions. We will revisit this topic later, perhaps next week, where we start adding and subtracting harder fractions. Now, the most important thing to remember is we can only add and subtract fractions when the denominators are the same. And all of the questions that we see today, the denominators will be different. So in order to do this, we need to make sure that the denominator is the same. So we are going to find equivalent fractions with the same denominator. When you make the denominators the same, this is often called a common denominator. And we find that common denominator by using the lowest common multiple. Now, in the questions that we see today, it might be that we have to alter one of the fractions to make that common denominator the same, or it might be that we have to alter both of the fractions. So let's take a look at a few examples, and I will show you how you should be setting your work out today. So my first example is adding the fraction 3/5 and 1/15. Now you can't just add the top and bottom numbers because the fractions are not the same size. It is a meaningless answer. What we need to do is express these fractions with the same denominator. So we're going to be looking at both denominators, thinking about the 5 times table, thinking about the 15 times table, and thinking what number is in both those times tables. Well, the common denominator for this one is 15, so I don't actually have to change the second fraction at all. But what I am doing is I'm taking the first fraction, and in order for the denominator to be 15, I am multiplying both the numerator and denominator by 3. So 3/5 is equivalent to 9/15. And now that the denominators are the same, I can add my numerators. 9/15 and another 1/15 would be 10/15 altogether. Now always look at your final answer, because if there's an opportunity to simplify that fraction, you should be trying to do that today. What does 10/15 simplify to? Well, these are both in the 5 times table, so I can divide both numbers by 5. So the answer to that one is 2/3. Let's look at our second example, which is a subtraction. Now this time, there is no number that I can multiply 8 by to make it 12 without going into decimals. So we won't do that. So we're looking for a common denominator. And I'm going to have to change both fractions. The common denominator of 8 and 12, well, you can go up in your times tables. 8, 16, 24, 32, and so on for the 8s. 12, 24, 36, and so on for the 12s. But I said 24 for both of those. That is my lowest common multiple. So I have multiplied the first denominator by 3. So for the equivalent fraction, I'm doing 7 times 3, which is 21. And I've times by 2, so this one is 10. Now, one common mistake I'm probably going to see today when you do some questions yourself is that you will forget or not concentrate on whether it is an add or a takeaway question. So this one is a takeaway question. So 21/24, take away 10 of them, leaves 11/24. And there is no simplifying to be done there. Our third example, what's the common denominator this time? Well, the common denominator is going to be 33. I'm multiplying this fraction, top and bottom, by 3 to find its equivalent. so it is 6 over 33. And I'm multiplying by 11, so this one is 11 over 33. Adding those together, 17 over 33. Okay, so when it comes to setting out, try and do your next line of writing underneath your question. It's much easier to compare fractions when you are writing your equivalent fraction directly underneath. 2 more questions to try together, so let's have a look at these. What's my common denominator for 20 and 3? Well, I'll go up in the big times table, so 20, 40, they're not in the 3 times table, 60 is. So I'm going to be using a common denominator of 60. Multiplied by 3. Good old 21 again. And multiplying by 20, and that is 40. So I've got the fraction, when I add it together, 61/60th, which is a improper or top-heavy fraction, because if there are 60/60ths, that would make one whole one, and I would have 1/60th left. So again, if there's any answers today where you end up with an improper fraction, it'd be a great opportunity for you to show me whether you can turn those into mixed numbers. Let's look at my final example. There are 3 fractions that we need to deal with here, and the best approach is to try and find the common denominator for all 3 denominators. So again, I'm going to count up in the biggest number and stop when I find a value that is in the 4 and the 3 times table as well. So 9, 18, 27 works for 3 but not 4, 36. 36 works for all of them. So I'm going to turn them all into fractions out of 36. This one I've multiplied by 12. So 1 times 12. This one, I've multiplied the denominator by 9, so I need 3 times 9, 27. I don't know why I've written 39 there. I'm sure you are all shouting at me for that. And what have I multiplied by here? I've multiplied by 4. So 2 times 4 is 8. So those are all my equivalent fractions. I just need to add these and then subtract. So 12 add 27 is 39. Take away 8 is 31. 31 over 36. Okay, does that cancel down? No, it doesn't. Doesn't cancel down because 31 and 36 do not have any common factors other than the number 1. Someone might be arguing, oh, 31's a prime number, so if there's a prime number, a fraction never cancels. Well, that's not actually true. Let me just quickly have a little side talk over here. Here's a good example. 7's a prime number. 7 over 14 does actually cancel down to a half. So the reason that fractions don't cancel isn't anything really to do with prime numbers. It's because they don't have any further common factors other than the number 1. So there are some questions for you to try again. So go back to my instructions. Please read those instructions. Follow the link to the PowerPoint and then try some questions. Do remember to leave time at the end to check your answers and make corrections. So don't just tick it and cross it. If you've got something wrong, either have another go or with your different coloured pen, correct that answer with the correct answer and spot where you went wrong. As always, if there's any problems, do get in contact via the Ask the Teacher channel.